I don't know about you, but when I walk through Red Square in Moscow, it's almost impossible not to fall in love. Beautiful women are everywhere you look. High heels, elegant coats, impeccable hair. And you think, that's it, I found the love of my life. Hold on, 40-year-old virgin. In Russia, beauty is truly just the book cover. But try being gay in Russia and see how that goes. Here, every gesture has a rule. There's a limit to how much you should smile, a specific way to say hello, and even the way you hold your vodka glass can betray you as a tourist. Oh, and be careful. Showing excessive friendliness can make you seem suspicious, you know? Today, I'm going to tell you the things nobody tells you about living in Russia, especially when it comes to behavior, culture, and the dreaded Russian women. Shall we? You know that Brazilian habit of smiling at everyone? The supermarket cashier, the neighbor, even a lamppost if it's in a good mood? Well, in Russia, that's basically asking for an investigation. Over there, excessive smiling is a sign of naivety, did you know? Nobody there flashes their teeth at strangers. Smiling for no reason can seem fake, foolish, or even suspicious. It's like carrying a sign, "I'm a tourist, scam me." This seriousness stems from centuries of history. During the Soviet Union era, smiling in public could seem like a provocation or disrespect. Too many people watching, not much freedom to show emotion. Thus, people learned to keep a straight face, and the habit stuck. To them, a smile is intimate. It appears only when truly warranted, and then it's genuine. That's why the typical Russian maintains a firm, focused, almost impassive expression, like the fighter Fedor Emelianenko, who'd knock people out with the same look as someone thinking about dinner. And his brother? The one who destroyed a muscle-bound guy and looked like he'd just woken up from a vodka hangover. Over there, constantly showing emotion is perceived as a lack of self-control. And a Russian woman especially won't just smile at someone she's just met. She needs to trust and feel secure to open up. And what about the women? Oh, my friend, they don't hand out smiles like flyers on the street. Want a real smile? You'll have to earn it. But the most curious thing is the contrast. Many Russian women adore foreigners, especially Latins, precisely because they're the opposite. They speak their minds, compliment, exaggerate, and call them beautiful constantly. For them, it's exotic, almost like emotional tourism. But if one day a Russian woman gives you a real smile, congratulations. It means you've passed the test. One of the first things you'll notice in Russia is that even hello has rules, seriously. There, saying good morning is almost a dance. And if you mess up, well, congratulations, you've just offended a Russian before your morning coffee. For men greeting men, a firm handshake, very firm. No weak handshake, that's a sign of weakness there. And a Russian values respect more than the oxygen he breathes. If a guy offers you his hand and you shake it as if you're trying to handle with kid gloves, he'll look at you like, is he? You know? Now, between women, the greeting is a classic. 3 kisses, alternating cheeks, left first. It's just a social kiss, though. Don't go in for one of those Brazilian soap opera kisses, because that's how you cause a diplomatic incident. And between a man and a woman, it depends. If it's a formal situation, like a business meeting, it's just a handshake. But if the situation is more casual, you might get a bear hug with a pat on the back, that famous bro hug, to make it perfectly clear no one's trying to hook up. Now, the most important thing, don't try to be overly friendly. Because in Russia, excessive friendliness is viewed with suspicion. You know that forced smile we give in Latin countries to seem polite? Over there, it's like waving a banner that reads, "I'm strange and easy prey." So keep that in mind. In Russia, the more neutral you appear, the better. Greet, make eye contact, shake hands, done. No, "Hey there, my friend," no bear hug, and no additional pats on the back. That's because, in Russia, they are the bear. But if you think that's strange, some Russians get fined because of mud. Could you imagine getting a ticket simply because your car is dirty? Well, in Russia, that's a reality. Over there, if your car looks like it went through a mud apocalypse, the police can pull you over. There, driving a dirty car can get you a fine of up to 2,000 rubles, which is about $20. But hold on, It's not because Russians hate dust. The rule is different. If the license plate isn't visible, you're definitely getting a fine. In other words, it's not about aesthetics, it's about safety. But let's be honest, in Russia, even dirt has a code of conduct. And the funniest part is that they take it really seriously. Some drivers clean their cars with snow gloves in minus 15 degrees Celsius just to avoid the headache. While I only take my car to be washed when the neighborhood kids start drawing inappropriate images on the back window, in Russia, they clean their cars diligently to avoid getting a fine. Did you know that in Russia, there are people who aren't allowed to drive because they prefer to go in reverse? If you catch my drift? That's right. And it's not a very old story either. In 2014, the Russian government passed a rule prohibiting people with personality disorders and deviant sexual behaviors from getting a driver's license. In other words, they included trans people and part of the LGBT community in this absurd category. And their argument? It's all for traffic safety, as though their sexual orientation could possibly impact their skill at handling a large, hefty gear shift. Imagine the reasoning. Watch out, there's a faggot on the road. Oops, he's gay, he could back over you. It's the kind of logic that sounds like a joke, but it's written in an official document. The law was published at the end of 2014 and sparked protests worldwide. Russian activists and even the World Health Organization harshly criticized this, yet the government argued it wasn't discrimination, but rather a medical concern. You know that classic saying, it's not prejudice, it's carefulness? Well, yeah. And the most contradictory aspect, in a country where one can drive a tank, yet cannot drive a car if they are gay, it becomes clear that the dangerous steering lies not with the vehicle, but in the mindset. This type of policy, however, does not emerge in a vacuum. Russia is a conservative society, guided by the Orthodox Church and the idea of the traditional family. And laws like this are part of a larger project to show the world that the country protects its values, even if in practice it means punishing those who are different. And if you think this doesn't impact everyday life, it absolutely does. There are reports of gay individuals who have lost their driver's licenses and many others who purposefully conceal their identity to prevent issues with the authorities. In other words, the guys who are used to handling someone else's gear shift apparently don't have the necessary skill to handle a real one. Hey, here's a thought. Forward this video to your somewhat effeminate friend who enjoys running because trust me, over there, my friend, he's going to have to do a whole lot more running. You think you're superstitious? Then wait until you meet a Russian, because there, my friend, even vodka has spiritual rules. To start with, never, under any circumstances, leave an empty bottle on the table. For them, it brings bad luck. It's not an old wives' tale, it's a serious rule. Done drinking? Put the bottle on the floor. Yes, on the floor. Some Moscow restaurants even keep this custom out of tradition. And if someone forgets, the waiter will discreetly go and remove it, as if warding off bad luck. And also, giving an empty wallet as a gift asks for the friendship to end. If you're giving a wallet, put a little symbolic note inside, like a treat for the universe. They believe that money attracts money, and emptiness attracts problems. Now, want to make an enemy of a Russian forever? Hand them a knife, scissors, or any sharp object. They believe it severs the relationship. And the most curious one, never celebrate a birthday early. They believe that celebrating before the date brings bad luck or even an early death. Some Russians prefer to skip their birthday if it lands on an unlucky day. They'll toast the day after at most. Can you imagine that here? We even celebrate our dog's month-iversary. But look, deep down, all of this is part of their culture. After centuries of facing wars, cold, and scarcity, the Russian people have learned to respect fate. For them, luck and misfortune aren't a joke, they are survival strategies. If there's one thing that you should absolutely never ever do in Russia, it's to mess with a babushka. Babushka means grandmother in Russian, but it's much more than that. It's a national institution. They're little old ladies with a headscarf, stern face, and Soviet general energy. They might be 5 feet tall, but they have more authority than the mayor. They are the guardians of Russian morals and culture. They know everything, see everything, and judge everything. If one gives you a dirty look on the subway, don't even argue. Just accept it, look remorseful, and move on. Golden rule: if a babushka asks you for help, you help. It could be to carry a bag or cross the street. Refusing is asking for bad luck. There's even a superstition that says refusing to help a babushka is like rejecting the blessing of your ancestors. And honestly, I believe it. These ladies possess an almost mystical strength, a blend of faith, stubbornness, and Soviet-era trauma. If you see two of them quarreling, flee. It's more intense than any political debate. Yet at heart, they are Russia's soul. They held the country together through war, famine, and cold. Respecting a babushka is almost a patriotic act. Therefore, if a Russian babushka asks you to hold her handbag, you should do so even if it feels as deceptively light as a bomb. Oh, and planning a trip to Russia is almost an extreme sport. Because there, you either end up in a military parade with tanks rolling by, or in a ghost town with everything closed. There's no in-between. The nation is quite obsessed with celebrating holidays. There's Victory Day, Women's Day, Spring Day, National Unity Day. Seriously, Russians will even celebrate the fact that they're alive after the winter. So, if you're traveling there, check the calendar first. On a holiday, the entire country stops, literally. Museums, churches, palaces, everything closes. But then, the streets become stages for parties, parades, fireworks, and vodka, naturally. May 9th, for instance, marks Victory Day, which is Russia's most significant national holiday. There are tanks in parades, fighter jets in the sky, war veterans crying, and children applauding. It's beautiful, it's historic, and it's the only day Moscow's traffic manages to be worse than Rio's on Christmas Eve. If you attend Maslenitsa, the Russian carnival, you'll see people burning straw dolls, eating pancakes, and shouting that winter's done. In other words, Russians endure 6 months of cold and still throw a party to say goodbye to it. That's what I call the climatic Stockholm syndrome. Now, if you found understanding the holidays difficult, just wait until you try to look at the clock. Russia is so huge it has 11 different time zones. While Muscovites are enjoying their dinner, people in the Far East are already having coffee the next day. It's the sole country where you can call up a friend and bid them good morning, while they're still saying good night, and both of you would be correct. To give you an idea, if you take a flight from Moscow to Vladivostok, you'll cross the equivalent of almost half the planet in time zones. Are you the kind of person who enters a house with their shoes still on? Well, in Russia, that's practically a cultural offense. There, taking off your shoes before entering isn't politeness, it's social survival. Do you know what happens if you forget? The lady of the house will stare at you as if you have truly stepped on her soul. And honestly, you pretty much did. For them, the floor is considered practically sacred. It's where they sit, eat, lie down, and relax. So, bringing street dirt inside is like bringing hell into the temple. And it makes sense. Russian winter streets are a muddy, snowy, salty mess. That stuff sticks to your soles and enters if you're not careful. That's why every Russian home has that little corner right at the entrance, full of slippers, the famous tapochki. You take off your shoes, pick a pair, and you're set. It's the rite of passage from civilization to tranquility. And it's not just in houses. A lot of cafes, guest houses, and even offices follow this rule. You see the mat, the shoe rack, and you already know. Take them off before stepping in. And the most curious part, nobody complains. It's just part of the culture. For a Russian, this is a sign of respect, a way of saying, your home is clean and I want to help keep it that way. So if you go to Russia and see everyone removing shoes at the door, don't find it odd. Just go with the flow. Take off your shoes, put on slippers, and welcome home. And if you forget, the babushka from our last chapter is probably going to come looking for you. Have you ever been to a dinner that started peacefully and ended in a fight? Well, in Russia, that's exactly what they try to avoid. Over there, two subjects are simply not discussed at the table: sex and politics. And that's not an overstatement. It's a rule of conduct. Talking about sex at dinner is seen as a lack of respect. Politics, well, that's just asking for trouble. The Russians truly appreciate a quiet dinner. The chat is about food, work, family, a political joke, and the mood instantly sours. And isn't it ironic? They're people who have survived revolutions, censorship, the KGB, and war, yet they're still terrified of a simple dessert conversation. And regarding sex, don't even mention it. Literally, Russians are extremely discreet. Talking about your private life in public is something you just don't do. Couples avoid public displays of affection. Kissing and hugging at a restaurant? No way. At most, a na zdorovye, a cheers, with vodka and a subtle glance. And the strangest part is that all this silence comes from generations of repression. For many decades, the Soviet government viewed sex as something entirely unproductive. It is said that back in the Soviet era, the government deemed sex to be a waste of time, even though the nation needed more people rather than fewer. There's even a famous quote from the 80s, uttered by a Soviet woman on a TV show that became legendary. "There is no sex in our country." And no, she wasn't joking around. Today, things have changed a little in the big cities, but the habit remains. The dinner table is a place to eat, not to cause a heart attack. So, if you're ever invited to dinner in Russia, write down this golden rule. Eat, toast, smile just a little, and save your political opinions and stories about your Russian girlfriend's virginity for another time. Have you ever heard that in Russia, you shouldn't exchange money at night? Yeah, it sounds like a superstition, but a lot of people take it very seriously. They believe that making transactions after sunset brings bad luck, whether it's lending money, paying off a debt, or even exchanging currency with someone. At night, it's better to leave it for the next day. And the reason? In the old days, people thought that money handled at night was dirty, money-cursed, stolen, or full of bad energy. Today, it's become a tradition. Some Russians even avoid bank transfers at that time, but it's not just mysticism. For a long time, exchanging money at night was also genuinely dangerous. Thieves, counterfeiters, and swindlers were aware that it was much simpler to deceive someone in the dark. So the superstition ended up becoming a form of protection. Even today, you won't see banks open late at night, nor currency exchanges operating. And if you offer money to a Russian at night, he'll probably refuse with a smile that isn't a smile, because Russians don't smile at strangers, remember? It's funny, isn't it? While we think money has no schedule, for them it does, and preferably with sunlight. You think the world is becoming more tolerant? Then try being gay in Russia and see what happens. If you have a slightly different face, darker skin, or features from Muslim countries, you're done for. There, that alone is enough reason for the police to stop you on the street. And that's no exaggeration. Many foreigners from neighboring countries, such as Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan, are treated just as if they were criminals. These guys go to Russia to work in construction, cleaning, deliveries, and end up hearing things like, "Go back to your country." That's when they don't get beaten up, right? But the worst of it happened in March 2024, when an armed group attacked Crocus City Hall, a Moscow concert venue, and over 140 people were killed. The criminals were from Tajikistan, and the Islamic State group ISIS-K claimed responsibility for the attack. The result? A wave of hatred arose against anyone who appeared to be Asian. Police raids in immigrant areas, arrests without cause, and mass deportations. Suddenly, everyone from Central Asia became a suspect. Now, if you're Asian and also gay, then you've got the complete package. The Russian government achieved the feat of declaring the LGBT movement as extremist. Yes, the same country that prides itself on fighting Nazism now treats a rainbow as if it were a nuclear threat. And that's not a metaphor. People are actually being arrested. In 2024, 2 employees of a gay bar were arrested simply because the establishment served as a community gathering place. And the authorities labeled this as extremist activity. It's really hard not to laugh nervously, isn't it? Even international companies had to adapt. Duolingo, that language app, had to remove all mentions of LGBT characters from its Russian version to avoid being banned. Thus, in Russia, even the green Duolingo parrot had to come out and then go back into the closet. And the most absurd thing, supporting the LGBT cause may be seen as propaganda. This includes posting a picture with a boyfriend, holding a flag, or simply stating that you are gay. It's the kind of law that makes affection a crime and love a threat to the state. Ironic, right? The country that allows neo-Nazis with shaved heads to roam freely, arrests those who wear glitter and love differently. The cold there is predictable, but the prejudice? That, my friend, is truly constant. Because at the end of the day, in Russia, loving is the true act of rebellion. If you've made it this far, comment Russia so I know you survived the invisible rules. And share this with that friend who thinks all it takes to win over a Russian woman is being good in bed, until he finds out her babushka has more blood on her hands than he has in his pants, if you know what I mean. Be sure to check out the video appearing on your screen to find out more. Thanks, and until next time.